In a market that suggests tablet interest and sales are slowing, entries on the Android side of the fence are heating up, and an unlikely competitor appears: Dell. Dell is quite literally one of the last manufacturers we would expect a high-end, extremely well-put-together competitive tablet from, but that's exactly what the Venue 8 7000 appears to be from the outside and on paper, despite its uninspired name. The question is, how does this tablet hold up in the day-to-day? Is it yet another letdown in the Android tablet space? Let's find out. I'm Taylor Martin with Android Authority, and this is our review of the Dell Venue 8 7000. As a whole, Android tablets have almost always been aesthetically underwhelming. A few OEMs have managed to mix things up from time to time, but from the appearance of the Venue 8 7000, Dell appears to be hellbent on visually differentiating its tablet from the rest. And it definitely succeeded. This tablet is truly stunning to look at and hold. Its industrial design is comprised mostly of precision-machined aluminum with hard edges and corners. It looks and feels fantastic, save for the glass section at the bottom of the backside, which is a terrible fingerprint magnet. The primary design feature here is the nearly edge-to-edge display. The screen runs up to just 6mm from the top and side edges. Paired with being the thinnest tablet in the world at just 6.1mm, the Dell Venue 8 7000 looks almost surreal, like a render of a concept device, except it's very real. And surprisingly, its extra thin build doesn't take from its sturdiness. It feels very solid in the hand without being too heavy for extended periods of use. However, all of those staggeringly small numbers for bezels and thickness mean the larger components have to fit somewhere. The stereo speakers, 8MP rear camera, 2MP front camera, and likely the antennas have all been crammed into the bottom bezel, or chin as I like to call it. This adds to the Venue 8 7000's unique design, and we don't necessarily hate how it looks, but rather the ergonomic challenges it poses. This chin comes with some added utility, like a place to actually hold the tablet since the other edges are so close to the screen. At the same time, it gets in the way and often makes me question how to hold the tablet. Portrait is the only orientation that feels natural, both because the chin is at home at the bottom and because the navigation buttons don't always follow the orientation of the tablet, particularly when you open the camera app. And unless you hold the tablet from the narrow top edge, it's virtually impossible not to cover up one of the cameras or depth sensors. It's almost like the tablet doesn't want to be held in anything but portrait. On top of that, the power button and volume rocker are positioned along the top half of the left edge, which is opposite of most devices. Plus, while they're metal, they're only slightly raised and have very little travel and tactility. And all the design is stunning, even if the ergonomics simply don't work out most of the time. Adding to the impressive nature of this tablet is the OLED display. It measures in at 8.4 inches diagonally with a resolution of 2560 by 1600 pixels. It also has a relatively high pixel density of 359 pixels per inch. The blacks are deep, colors have a distinct pop without being super saturated, and the brightness range is quite good. Still, outdoor visibility is a common problem among OLED displays and could definitely be improved on this tablet, as could side visibility. But for gaming and viewing multimedia, this is doubtless one of the best displays around. Unlike most Android tablets, the Dell Venue 8 7000 relies on the Intel Atom Z3580 chipset, which is a combination of a 2.3 GHz quad-core CPU and PowerVR G6430 GPU. And so far as performance goes, the Venue 8 7000 has very little trouble holding its own. Through most menial tasks, like scrolling through lists and swiping through home screens, we noticed no serious signs of lag or stutters. But it wasn't too hard to find some performance quirks and reproduce them, seemingly at will, especially when pressing the Recent Apps button and changing orientation. Still, the overall performance is pretty much on par with all the competition out there, and it handles gaming like a champ, which is great since this tablet is basically the perfect size for casual gaming. The rest of the internals on the Venue 8 7000 are pretty standard. It has 2GB of RAM with 16GB of storage, no surprises there. However, it does have a card slot for microSD card expansion, and it's capable of reading up to 512GB. For the record, a 512GB microSD card doesn't exist yet, and regular SD cards in the half terabyte flavor go for upwards of $1,000, so this is mostly future-proofing more than anything. Connectivity options are par for the course too. Wi-Fi 802.11 BGNAC and Bluetooth 4.0, but it doesn't come with NFC, which is a bummer. As for the speakers, we're torn. We were surprised by how loud and full the sound coming from them actually was. They're loud, very loud, and they don't sound half bad, mostly thanks to the built-in equalizer app, Max Audio by Waves. It comes with 4 presets: movie, music, voice, and gaming. The difference between Max Audio being on and off is night and day. However, despite being front-facing, if you use the tablet in landscape, all of your audio is coming from just one side of the tablet, taking from the immersive effect. In portrait, this isn't much of an issue, all the sound comes from the bottom. But when it comes to stamina, this tablet is killer. Only after 3 days and 12 hours did the tablet reach 28% battery remaining. When the screen is off, it barely sips at the battery, dropping just between 2 and 4% each day. But if you jack the screen brightness up in use, you're gonna see that awesome stamina take a hit. Dell claims 10 hours of use, and that's definitely doable if you manage the screen brightness well. The camera on the Venue 8 7000 is admittedly strange. It's very gimmicky. The setup around back is a primary 8-megapixel camera with two 720p cameras, which work as depth sensors, not totally unlike HTC's Duo camera. This is what Dell calls Intel RealSense 3D technology. Simply point the camera at an object in the depth snapshot shooting mode, hold it steady, and snap a photo. If you open this photo in Dell's Gallery app, you can adjust the focal point, the amount of defocusing, and more. Further, you can estimate distances and measure items within the photo using the captured depth information. This RealSense technology works pretty well, as good or better than most other faux defocusing methods. But there were a few problems. 1, it doesn't work in low light. 2, the images take what seems like forever to process once you open them in the gallery. And 3, snapping photos is extremely awkward with this tablet. Not only because it's a tablet, but because all the cameras are positioned around the only place you really have to hold the tablet, the chin. It's easier to accidentally take a photo than it is to take one on purpose. And even Dell's depth snapshot instructions look awkward and show the user holding the tablet by the screen, and in portrait. And the front-facing camera isn't any less awkward to use. All of the cameras are in strange positions that are entirely too hard not to cover up. And on top of that, the image quality itself isn't much to get excited about. In fact, it's pretty drab and unimpressive. Dell is so close to a solid execution, but the unwieldy nature of capturing photos with the Venue 8 7000 makes us wonder how much better this technology would be if it were on a smartphone. One of the most upsetting aspects of the Venue 8 7000 is the software. Not that it's bad, the software would actually be quite good if this were early or even mid-2014. It ships with Android 4.4.4 KitKat in a very near-stock form. Normally that would be a good thing, but it's been over 3 months since Lollipop officially arrived and even longer since it was announced. If you've never used Lollipop, this tablet's software will feel quite natural and polished. That said, if you're coming from a phone or tablet which currently runs on Google's latest firmware, even after just a few days with Lollipop, the software on the Venue 8 7000 will feel borderline archaic. The separated panels for notifications and quick settings, recent apps instead of the overview menu, and 5 permanent home screens are stark contrasts and reminders of just how much the Lollipop update has improved the usability and appearance of Android. I constantly found myself long pressing on the home screen to add widgets, but they still reside in their old home on this tablet, the app drawer and the tab to the right of the applications. Outside that, there isn't much to say about the software. A few applications like Kobo Books, McAfee Security, Camcard, and File Commander come pre-installed, and Dell's additions are pretty minimal. It has its own camera app, the My Dell app, some live wallpapers, a custom gallery app for editing photos with depth information, and Dellcast. That's right, Dell has replaced the screencasting feature of Android with its own proprietary software, which requires Dell-specific hardware. While unfortunate for purists, it's a slight modification that won't affect most users. And all the software is pretty solid, even if it does look and feel a little old. Fortunately, a Lollipop update is in the works and is expected to land sometime in the near future. It's also nice to see the app situation for Android tablets constantly improving, though even some of Google's own apps still have their own quirks when it comes to larger displays. Dell's Venue 8 7000 tablet sells for just $399, a fair and comparable price to much of the competition. We figure many potential buyers will be torn between Dell's 8.4-inch slab and the 8.9-inch Nexus 9, which goes for the same price with many similar specs and features. But expandable storage, a killer edge-to-edge display, and a really sweet industrial design means you might be getting more bang for your buck with the Venue 8 7000. Our biggest cause for concern with this tablet is its ergonomics. In just about anything but portrait, it doesn't feel quite right, and accidental screen taps or button presses are inevitable. But those issues are small potatoes when you consider all the high points of this tablet. It's definitely one of the best looking Android tablets to hit the market in a very long time. The speakers and display make it ideal for multimedia consumption, and it offers up some pretty impressive battery performance. While not perfect, the Dell Venue 8 7000 is a surprisingly great tablet, and we say it's well worth the cash. Guys, that's going to do it for this review. If you enjoyed it and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more awesome content from the team here at Android Authority on the YouTube channel. And also go to AndroidAuthority.com for your source on all things Android. One last time, my name is Taylor Martin. You can find me on Twitter at CasperTech, and I will see you in the next one.